Good morning, everyone. This is Jeffe Kennedy, author of epic fantasy romance. I'm here with my first cup of coffee. Ah, delicious. Today is Monday, October 14th. It is Indigenous Peoples Day here in the U.S. Well, it sort of depends on where in the U.S. you are. Here in New Mexico, proud home to something like 21 tribes. Uh, we are officially Indigenous Peoples Day. It was once Columbus Day. Um, and yeah, Mom, it's not going to be Columbus Day ever again unless you live in a thoroughly red state. But that has gone by the by. Uh, yeah, so there it is. I feel like we get this question a lot from people living in other parts of the world. Because I am on the Swifties threads, uh, I saw someone asking a question about Taylor Swift playing in Florida, and wouldn't that be dangerous for her? Not because of hurricanes, but because of the horrible Florida politics. And so I responded as I don't always, sometimes I do, but trying to explain the patchwork nature of US politics. Because this whole thing where they say red state, blue state, purple being a mix of red and blue, um, it's it's really kind of nonsense, because the truth is that every state is a mix if you drill down to like the county level of whether it tends to be conservative or progressive, and a whole lot of it has to do with whether or not it's an urban area, which is, well, we could really go into the whole thing about like which comes first, right? But I've always found it really interesting that people complain, conservatives, not just people, conservatives complain about the universities being woke and brainwashing kids and all of this kind of thing, like these hotbeds of liberalism that need to be done away with. And it's like, the universities are where the smart people are. So I still don't understand why we're not paying attention to what the smart people think. This whole elevation of what the uneducated and the unintelligent, um, the the willfully obtuse think, this whole idea of that, like somehow there's truth in ignorance, and there's not. There's just ignorance and ignorance. I saw a little bit on the news about, internet news, that in North Carolina, the FEMA, the emergency people who are there to help with the hurricane devastation there, have had to pull out of some areas because of misinformation, mobilizing these amateur militias uh, that think that they need to drive out the FEMA people because I don't know what. Anyway, we're here to talk about writing and publishing, not American politics. The next few weeks can't go fast enough. So anyway, Indigenous Peoples Day. I saw a great meme, and then I wanted to go back and grab it, and I couldn't find it again because it was Facebook. But it was a great picture of some Apache tribes people, looking very determined, sort of in a classroom. But it said that they've always said that the uh, tribal vote doesn't matter. The indigenous vote doesn't matter for Arizona, but that's what flipped Arizona last time. And it's like, yeah, everybody matters. Everybody. Anyway, I said I would stop talking about this. Um, I have some aggravation this morning. I finally managed to get my Ristras over the weekend. This has been an ongoing effort. My usual Ristra people haven't been there. And then I finally, um, it was a lot of back and forthing. Like, okay, so the Ristras are those long chains of the chili peppers, right? Come out in the fall. And I got out my Halloween decorations. I wanted my Ristras too. It's been a warm fall. Maybe I'm too early. But after I went to yoga on Saturday, which was great. So glad that my yoga teacher is back. Um, did yoga, and then I came all the way back out to our neighborhood. I verified that there was a Ristra vendor at this one location about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes from our house, 10 minutes. And then I came all the way out here to see if my usual people were there. They were not. Went back to the Ristra vendor, finally got my Ristras, hung them up, and they have been stripped by the rodents. Pack rats or rock squirrels, I don't know. Saw that this morning, and so I'm just, I know it's not important in the grand scheme of things, but I actually screamed out loud at the sight of my stripped Ristras. So, into every life, I shouldn't be so aggravated by it. I've been a little bit emo. I think it's partly working on this book, which I did have my best week all year last week. So that's great. That's fantastic. Um, but I do think it kind of works on me when I'm deep into drafting a book like this. I was going to see what I got. Yeah, I got 13,328 words last week, which is sneaking right up on my 15,000 words a week goal. So, and I'm happy with it. It's unusual. I know I talked about it some on Friday. And I have a number of things to talk about today, so I will attempt not to reiterate. I did want to touch on one thing that I just saw on Threads this morning. This author who has two books out, their debut fantasy, and they were asking, is it a myth that you can get passive income from books? Because between their advertising and all of this, they're not making any money. And melt emoji. I mean, I just kind of sagged reading that. And I realized that some of it is just that there's a lot of bad information out there, right? And all these people saying, "Oh, you're going to get rich and you're going to do this and that," and it's okay. So let me just instead of melting and sighing, um, yes, you can make a decent passive income from your books, but it takes a robust backlist. It's not going to happen on your first book or your second book or your fifth book. These things take time, and I know it's frustrating. I know that people don't want things to take time, and I get it. Nobody wants things to take time, but it does. It just does. I'm in mind of two stories. When I first moved out to Santa Fe, I met this gal in my neighborhood who had a book out on submission, a literary fiction book, and she made some comment about her bills and needing money, and she said, "I sure hope I sell this book by April, so I can afford to pay for X." And I didn't want to be unkind to her, I didn't want to rain on her parade because, but even if the book had sold by then, when she would get the money and how much money that would be, it's you can't count on it. And I've been there. I like my very first book, my essay collection. I had figured out that if I got this much of an advance, I could pay off this credit card and all of that kind of thing. And it did not happen that way. I didn't even get an advance on my first book. I also think about a very good friend of mine who I miss still, Carol Griffin, um, who passed away. Um, Carol did a book on a memoir on tattooing, and she was a tattoo artist, and she died of liver failure. I think it was Hep C, and yeah, that sucks. Sorry, unexpectedly sad about that, but she was in my first writers group. She was great. I loved her, but she sold that memoir, and she got $75,000 in advance for that. And that was, oh, I went and grabbed her book. It was 2003. This is her book, Skin Deep. It was partly sexy because it included stuff that happened with Matthew Shepard, which happened in the town that we lived in. So it's Skin Deep, Tattoos, The Disappearing West, Very Bad Men, and My Deep Love for Them All. And I was just noticing, this is like a total tangent, I apologize. The inscription inside, she said, "For Jeffy, I couldn't have done this without your reading over and over and insight and encouragement." Uh, yeah, so anyway, she got that advance for this book. She was very helpful with me, encouraging me to get my book out there and all of that kind of thing. But she spent that money so fast. And, like I know she spent a big chunk of it hiring a band to play for her boyfriend's birthday party. I mean, Very Bad Men and her love for them, right? I guess it was on brand. Um, yeah, but I remember she had said to me one day, I don't know, a year or two after publication, maybe, I don't know, I don't think it was even that long. It might have been like 6 months. And she said to me, "I can't wait for this book to earn out because I really need money. I can't wait for the royalties to start coming in." And it's like, do you know how long it takes to start earning royalties on 75,000? Excuse me, $75,000 advance. I got agita. I was so agitated. Um, so anyway, it takes a long time, and nobody wants it to. But there's a reason why "Don't Quit Your Day Job" is both a joke and sage advice. Okay, so I want to finish what I started, remarkably enough, on Friday, talking about the success gurus and the advice they give. Um, and I did all the caveats on Friday. I think it's funny when I put something on social media, like on Threads, I said that I was going to put out there that people shouldn't take advice on copyright law from randos on Threads. And which I felt like was a pretty safe public service announcement to make because I saw somebody asking a question about copyright and all sorts of people were offering advice, and a lot of it was wrong. But people replied to me and said that I was giving advice. And it's like, I get that this is partly the internet trolling and sea lioning. And one person even said that that counted as me giving legal advice because I told people they should seek a lawyer. And I did not tell anyone to seek a lawyer. There's a big gap between taking advice from randos on the internet and taking and hiring a lawyer. But I loved that. Yeah, he said that in his opinion that was me giving legal advice. And fortunately, another lawyer popped on there and was like, "That's not even close to giving legal advice. It's not even I forget what he said was the in between, like a legal opinion or something like that, which people are allowed to give on the internet." Anyway, I'm spending my time here. Um, this is my opinion. I have had a lot of experience with the whole success guru language and everything. And so I talked about it a little bit on Friday's podcast. Apologies for the two-parter on this. But I talked a lot about the whole concept of the negative thinking and how they say that this whole idea of, sorry, I had to go look, that fear of success is getting in your way. And so this provides them an out, right, where they can tell you if you try their method, their guaranteed method, and it doesn't work, then it's because of your fear of success or your negative thinking. I've heard it put that way. Looking at some other things, I'm looking at a real offering here. And one thing that this person is saying is that it doesn't matter if the book is good or bad, and that's what makes it take off. And I think there's a certain amount of truth to that. Um, My old teacher, who used to be very good at this kind of grift, and it really is a grift, would say that you put in just enough truth to make the bullshit stick. That's a direct quote. So yes, it is true that in some to some extent it doesn't matter if the book is good or bad because those are subjective qualifications. Nobody can prove either way. It's not like saying if the book has a red cover versus a blue cover. Good and bad, eye of the beholder. And there are wonderful books that never quite take off. A lot of what this one is doing is talking about guaranteeing virality. And I feel like the essential definition of virality, actually, I'm going to look. Okay, so I wanted to say that it was in the definition, baked into the definition that it's organic, and it's not. At least the ones that I'm seeing is condition or fact of being rapidly spread or popularized by means of people communicating with each other, especially through the internet. I do feel like there's an element to that is that it's going to happen. But people strategize how to do this all the time, right? How do we make something go viral? I can't wait until that term dies because everybody's like, oh, this has gone viral. I see people with like less than 1,000 likes on something saying my post went viral. And it's like, did it though? A joke for regular listeners there. Um, Here's another one, limiting beliefs. I'm like going back and scanning this site and looking for phrases. They use this phrase a lot, limiting beliefs. It's like fear of success, that poverty thinking, right? If you're not thinking big enough, you have to spend money to make money. Going back to this author who was talking about, can you make a passive income, which is another success guru thing, right? That the whole strategy is to make passive income so that you have money coming in that's not directly related to your daily work, right? Like you don't have to go to a job. You don't have to put in hours. You don't have to like write the thing. Your books are just out there selling, that money's coming in. So this is like the you'll get rich strategy for so many of these people is get passive income. And they focus on writing a lot because it is good passive income. There are books that I know will continue to earn me money for the rest of my life, and thank goodness for that. Uh, but like even on that thread where this brand new author is acting about where's my passive income, people were saying, well, you have to spend money. You've got to advertise. You have to keep that awareness up and out there. Uh, I'm not sure those things are true. And besides, limiting beliefs has a whole lot to do with your own internal self-excavation and not what some person trying to sell you a package tells you they are. Like here's one that they trot out, this idea that rich people are bad people. And if you believe that rich people are bad people, then you're never going to get rich. Uh, I don't I don't know what to tell you there. It's just not true. And besides which, most people aren't going for being rich, whatever your idea of that is. You just want to be able to pay the mortgage, right? You want to be able to pay the bills. I think the thing to look out for here is anyone who's promising to help you get rich, um, as opposed to being able to make a living. Maybe try making a living first and get rich later. Um, I just, like this whole thing of um, be aware of what they're trying to sell you because they're getting rich selling you this packet of goods, right? I think another word to watch out for is guaranteed. Uh, Anytime they tell you that something is guaranteed, that's a very easy thing to say because they don't actually have to back it up with anything. There is no legal requirement for them to back up anything. Another consistent element is they will tell you that they are not in this to make money, that they are doing this because they want to share it. This particular site is saying things like that they want to test it out and see how it works. There's always that element of offering the generosity of, oh, I just want to help you. If they just want to help you, they wouldn't be charging you $1,000 to do this, right? So once again, I've run out of time. Let me know if this is helpful to you. I feel like I'm not doing a great job of explaining it. I should maybe write it out and share it. But I think the difference between me and, yes, this podcast is monetized. You had to watch an ad at the beginning or listen to an ad at the beginning. Thank you. Some of you send me money. I appreciate that. It's very helpful to me because I am not rich and I do sometimes struggle to pay the mortgage. That's the thing about this whole, like, write a book to market and get rich from it. The whole strategy is, that's great when that happens. And then what do you do 2 years later? You're just still doing it. So yeah, yes, I am monetizing my advice. Uh, the podcast here, I don't make tons of money from it, but I do make some. I do have my mentoring Discord, which I keep the prices very low there. Um, I will never guarantee you anything, which probably makes me less successful than some because I'm sorry, I can't make you any promises. But I can tell you what works for me. I can tell you um, the wisdom of experience, perhaps. But yeah, I think anytime someone tells you that something is guaranteed, it's snake oil. So on that note, I'm going to get to work writing. You should probably get to work on whatever it is that you need to do. And I will talk to you all on Friday. You all take care. Bye bye.